front of it. A few minutes. Watch the microphone and everything. You've been banging everything before, so you don't, yeah. You gotta get it higher. Come on. Do you want me to do it on my own? I can do it on my own.
No,
yeah, watch the cable. Don't feel bad about it.
No, I don't like holding it from the bottom.
You're already live, you know that, right? Yes.
Oh.
Wait, let's go get the beer. Come. Alright, so thank you, Julia. Julia's my cameraman, but she hasn't done it in a while, so I'm kind of like, we're all here training. Alright, first, thanks for spending the day with me. It has been fun. I'm a little exhausted and I'm a little terrified because unveiling the bread is always unnerving. This is Lampo. Lampo, what's up? Show Lampo. Yeah. Okay. This is a chair, and then while we wait, make sure that 7 o'clock is coming. I don't know if we will be together, but I am about to have my Will Ferrell Reaper SNL moment, celebrating the responders tonight. Big shout out to any responders, to the school teachers, to anybody that is keeping this world going around these days. Okay, so drop your drink. Take a sip, drop your drink. Come. Right, so what's happening now is that I'm gonna unveil the bread. The bread is not finished, it needs to crisp. So what happens when you keep it covered with a cast iron is that the temperature allows the bread to expand, and it keeps the temperature very consistent, and it retains the humidity of the bread, which is the most important thing. That's really what you want. Make sure that you do not lose the humidity of the bread. Professional ovens even have a system to inject and spray vapor inside the oven when you bake bread, but we don't need to get into all this. So this is the one where I remove the cast iron pot, but I close the oven and I need still to finish the bread. So my idea is this: I'm gonna flip the pot and put it on the stove, and together we're gonna finish up our beer or our drink, waiting for 7 o'clock to celebrate the responders, and see when I decide that my bread is nicely done. And you'll see the different in colors, and I'll show you, I'll bring it back and forth, okay? Alright, Julia, come down. Score up. Oh, this is a good shot. Okay. I am really terrified. So what you do... Right, so my loaf is a little flat, but it has good scores. It's gonna be a little compacted, which I kind of like expected because I'm making chicken at the same time. But this is the thing, okay? This is absolutely not the bread that I wanted to have. I wanted to have a bread a little more fluffy, that I grew up a little more like Mike's loaves. However, I'm gonna do it again tomorrow, and tomorrow is gonna be different, and maybe it's gonna be a beautiful day. Maybe the temperature in the house is gonna be so fantastic that my dough just rises, the way that I want it. I look like a lobster. Making fun of me because of the lobster. Take them out. So every day the beer is kicking in, and in between I had a couple of whiskeys or so, but this is what you have to do. You just have to make peace with the fact that sometimes your bread will turn right, sometimes your bread won't turn out at all. Your starter might die, you might not feed the starter properly and just kill your starter. One of the considerations that I actually was making before is that because the cycle is such a repetitive and it's such a precise thing that happens, one of the things that I have observed, one of the things that I noticed is that if you switch a flour in a starter, the starter will react to that. Sometimes you find that exceptional, fresh meal ground flour and makes your starter pop. Other times you might just get a flour that just doesn't react with your culture and doesn't give you the results. Just don't give up. Keep on doing it. That's really like the best advice that I can give you. Now, if you have any questions, I have to wait, I would say at least 10-15 minutes. We might say goodbye before if there's no questions, or just if we want to go fuck off and drink, it's absolutely fine. Let me know. Let me see. So good. Okay, are you guys doing... well, okay, one loaf came down, another one came out good. Okay. Oh, that's good. It makes me happy. All right, you want to see what's happening? So basically, it's browning. You know what? I'm going to remove the paper. There you go. Give it a little spin. And nice. Okay. And this goes. So, why are you laughing at me? No, now I have my daughter that is behind the camera and I'm looking in her eyes instead of looking in the camera. She's making fun of my accent. I know that, right? Yeah, thank you very much. You're not nice. You should be a little nicer. Okay, let me see if I can see any questions. Can you show my starter? Yes. Okay, so this is the starter that I fed this morning. Okay, so my starter has a cycle of 12 hours. So it's starting to react now. This is a starter that I made this morning when I mixed my dough. I have to feed him, it already grew and it already went down because that is the cycle. You have to see where is the peak. You see this line? This is where my starter grew to and then it went down. That means it's already overproofed, it's already on the acidic, and in fact it smells a little on the sour side rather than the creaminess that you really want from it. Let me see if I can incline the cameras so you can look into it without losing the phones. So there's a little bit of foam, but it's still stringy, it's still alive. So given that my bread tonight looks like crap and tomorrow night I'm planning making tacos, so I will have the oven all for myself, I'm going to do it again tomorrow. However, people, look, I don't need to repeat the premise. I am not a baker and shit happens all the time in the kitchen. It doesn't matter, it really doesn't matter how good you are. Just keep on doing it. Don't give up. It's like writing a song, it's like writing an essay. One day something fantastic comes out and the other day you're just stuck. This, I have to say, is my fault because I did stop the cooking, the proofing, because I decided to cook chicken. I gave my chicken an hour of cooking and now as soon as my bread is done, the chicken goes back in, the bread sits, and then we'll have dinner in about, I don't know, 45 minutes, an hour. Kids are busting my balls a bit. Let me see, another question. Let's go grab this from Instagram. Have you ever used beer instead of lievito? Yes, this is a very good point. Okay, so yeast is yeast. So without talking about that crazy woman from Oakland that a couple of years ago ended up in the newspaper because she was using her own yeast to make bread, which is, sorry, but it just came to mind. Any yeast population of bacteria can work really well in your dough. When I was a kid, my father used to make fritters with mixing beer and flour and just frying them, and they would bubble and grow, and he would just like sprinkle salt on top of it and feed it to me and my brother, and that was like a fantastic memory. Yes, you can use beer. The strength of the beer is flimsy, depends on the kind of beer. There's too many beers around, so it's almost like having all different brands. But this brings me to a consideration. What? Oh, what? 6:45.
Can I put the thing?
Oh, my daughter wants to put the... No, you know what? Let's give a final look to the bread. Yes, you're released. My Steadicam is getting tired. Okay, so there's a little color, at least. The cracks are decent. It's smoking a little bit. That smoke is not burnt. That smoke is actual moisture. Sorry about the camera. I forgot what I was saying. Oh, considerations about yeast. Yes, let me put this on the tripod. Sorry about that, guys. I have too many things going on. Okay, so considerations about yeast. Yes, you can use beer, and in fact, beer yeast is extremely common in Europe, in Italy, and that is one of the preferred ways to make bread, and especially schiacciata. All the things that require somewhat of a fast fermentation, something that you can keep exactly on the schedule, beer yeast is the best. When I used a touch of beer to revive a starter, When a starter doesn't get a cycle that is too steady, or when the cycle is really above the 24 hours, which means that your starter is yet not ready and you want to speed it up. Hey, shut the... Come here. You can use a touch of beer mixed with water when you feed your starter, and that would work. Think in terms of food, okay, when you feed your starter. So ultimately, there is another couple of things that you could add to your starter to make it go a little faster. Completely unorthodox, so if you're a professional baker, just don't mind me, this is just my own experience. A touch of sugar, and when I talk about a touch of sugar, I'm talking in a starter that is, let's say, 80 grams of flour and 80 grams of water, plus 2 tablespoons of the original starter before, nothing more than a half teaspoon. A pinch of sugar. It's almost like steroids. It's almost like injecting a lot of food and carbs that dissolves into your mix, and it becomes available to the bacteria a little faster than the flour would do. I had good results with honey as well, with the idea that a bacteria population in the honey might result into some sort of like yeast mutation. I don't know, but I have used that as well. But this is really it. And when when I want to make my pizza dough, I only make it with dry yeast. That is absolutely the easiest way. When I want to make focaccia or ciabatta, that's different. Those are the ciabatta is very wet, so I tend to use my sourdough to make a dough that is even wetter than the one that we did today. But in order to make ciabatta, you need to have one of those starters that's just like is screaming energy, super bubbly, super energetic. You need to have a dough that just like it's blistered all over the place, and I haven't been able to do that yet. So no, that hasn't happened yet. You know, the good thing about bread is that you need to be happy with it. You're not opening a damn bakery tomorrow morning, right? You're doing it as something. I find that I make bread for myself first. It allows me to pace my day. It is almost like taking care of an infant. We are close to be empty nesters, so it's almost like having a child in the house that depends on you, and truly depends on you. Like you gotta go there within that half hour, 1 hour, otherwise the whole thing is messed up. And then the surprise, the result, the fact that every night I have a warm loaf of bread in my house makes up for the caviar that I'm definitely not buying in general, really, but not these days. In these days, we're floating really, cash at hand, so to speak. So when it comes to cooking on a budget, I do believe that baking bread, as you've seen all over, right? Everybody's doing it across the States. I've seen people posting exceptional stuff like those schiacciata with all the vegetables and the flours. They are, absolutely fantastic. So, what I appreciate really the most is to be able to do something that resonates with you guys. My wife has been positive, so, she was positive, she's been sick, so I've really been stuck in the house. I haven't been able to all my work got, in the kind, all my gigs got cancelled until God knows when. But when it comes to helping others, I always tell, if there's anything that you can do, I do support the food bank for New York City. This is a very important moment. They provide a unique service, and obviously logistics are very hard these days. There are a lot of people involved and trying to help out. Any work that we have been doing from the house that was actually compensated for charity, everything has been directed there. So no, there is no donate button, because I see a question here like, why don't you add? No, this is for me and you, and to talk and have a moment together, which brings me basically to the final conclusions, right? It is 51, that's 9 minutes, so I'll let you go clap on the street on your own. We don't need to be together for that, and I wish you all the best. But I'm having a lot of fun, and from the comments and the views, it looks like you're having fun too. So tomorrow night I'm gonna have tacos with the leftover chicken that I'm making tonight, and the steak that I made 2 days ago. So 3 days steak, and it's fine, I did it on the barbecue. So tomorrow night is tacos, so I won't be streaming. But maybe the day after tomorrow, is there a recipe that you'd like to see? Something easier, something that does not require spending the whole day together, but maybe being at the stove and, for a half hour, 45 minutes in the evening, maybe I can convince Deborah to show up. The funny thing, she's ready for it. She really wants to come in. but she hasn't been able to do her nails. So she removed her nails, and because they were thin, she ended up scratching her eye. She woke up with kind of like a little scratch on her eye, so right now she's kind of like, you know, wearing her fabulous glasses and running around the house. I believe drinking all the white wine that I bought for dinner, or at least I'm drinking beer, so I guess she took the liberty. Let's go see the bread. I'm not gonna move it out of the tripod, okay? Drop all the comments that you want, drop all the questions that you want. I'll try to respond everything. Probably not tonight because I still have to cook and feed the family, but then tomorrow during the day. Right, so let's see if my bread is ready to come out. I do have on the table a cooling rack, the same stuff that I use for, you know, chocolate chip cookies. One of the things that I can do at least is give you a little bit of an angle so we can see. All right, so let me see what's happening. All right, come on. I think I'm okay. Look, it is definitely not the perfect loaf. Not the perfect loaf. But it's fresh and it's piping hot. And let me put it on the rack and then I'll bring it back up. It hasn't bubbled the way that I want it. The way that it was supposed to be. Oh, this is the Roomba that started. Now she's gonna get stuck somewhere and start screaming. These are my faults. Do you remember when I told you I do not score my bread? So these are the weak points of the dough as it grew in the oven and it scored. The mark of the banneton is fairly visible. It's a little hot. And this is the sound that you want to hear. Your crust will soften and then harden again. But when the crust, when the oven comes out, when the bread comes out of the oven, you want to have a very hard crust. When you're so lucky, and maybe this will do, but when you're so lucky, then you make a bread that is exceptional. The bread will start sinking as it cools off, almost like the engine of a truck, of a diesel truck, when you stop it after riding it for 600 miles. You know, the tickling of the metal that cools off and the engine that retracts after being expanded. So this happens to the bread as well. And when you stare at it, when you had a couple of drinks and you're making dinner, but you're staring at your fresh bread, sometimes the crust pops and the flour that is on top pops out as well, and in little like micro clouds of crackling crust that is fantastic. One final consideration, I had a few comments from you asking about stenciling the bread at the end. No, just don't do that. You cannot stencil fresh flour on a loaf of bread, and this is not about the look, it's because flour is raw and you can get very sick. So there is no trick really that you can do. I would imagine if you were to make a flat loaf that is not scored, you can probably stencil it 10 minutes, 15 minutes before pulling it out of the oven, but that's what it means. Bringing out your bread, stenciling and putting back in to cook the extra flour on top, but it's just not worth it. So I would refrain from doing that. This is it, guys. It is 6:55. I'm gonna fill up my my glass of beer and I'm gonna go outside to show my support. Actually, this is my bongo bell, and this comes from the Bronx. This actually was made in the Bronx by JCR. I bought this like probably 35 years ago when I was in Italy. But it came from the Bronx, and then it came to LA with me, and now it's here in New York again. So it's a full cycle. Thank you very much. This was fun. I don't want to apologize for the bread that didn't come out the way that I wanted. Last night bread came out better, and I'm sure that tomorrow's bread will be better. But it's kind of like, this is how it usually happens. I need to go put. I need to go put that chicken in the oven. Otherwise, tonight we're not gonna have dinner. Thank you so much for being with me tonight. In the comment, let me know any questions. I'll respond, and if there's something that we'd like to cook together this week at some point, let's say connection from 6:30 to 7:30, something like that from the kitchen, we can absolutely do that, and I'll do my best to bring in the wife as well. Thank you all. Thanks to the first responders, thanks to the doctors, the sanitation, the grocery shoppers, the truck drivers, everybody that is out working so we can stay home and stay distant from each other until the day that we can hug again. No, not really. We'll see in a couple of days. Be well.